Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us for this latest episode of the INC Preview Show. My name is Karl and I'm joined today by Mr. Gareth Kyle.
Hello, thank you.
And the owner of Almighty Fighting Championships, and Mr. Ray Thompson.
Hi, you're right, thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for joining me, and I want to say a big thank you especially because it was quite short notice to get you both on board for today's show. Tim Close, of course, a regular on this show. He's preparing for his next fight over in Liverpool. Not sure about Max though. Max unfortunately wasn't able to tune in. Maybe it's a bit of a Joe Rogan thing. He found out that it was an international card and thought, I'll get this one in this. But yes, thank you very much for joining us for today's show. We will be talking about UFC 242. Before we do, however, we want to say it doesn't come cheap to rent all of this equipment and to get all of our guests in. So any support that you can give for the channel would be greatly appreciated. So there's a link on your screen right now. It's www.patreon.com/It's Not Cagefighting. Any money that you can give towards the show will go directly towards these preview shows and trying to get the quality to the best of its abilities. So before we begin, lads, thank you very much again for joining me. First thing we need to do, however, is we need to talk about some of the stories leading into UFC 242 in the past month of MMA, and that brings us on to UFC 241, that big card which took place in Anaheim, California, and we have a new heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic. Any opinions on that one?
Fight was amazing. I mean, they're both guys that you can't help but love, and it's a kind of fight you don't want to see any of them lose, but obviously one of them has to lose. The first time they fought, of course, Stipe, the first person to defend the title so many times, he was the longest running UFC heavyweight champion, and it was such a big shock when he got caught and put away. But you couldn't help but be happy for Cormier.
Yes.
And then watching the fight play back again now, it looked like it was going to go the same way early on, but Stipe's footwork and his movement was just class. And then the way he just finished it off, as the fight was going on, you could see Cormier getting a little bit slower and Stipe ramping it up a little bit. And then once, I think he started landing a couple of body shots and Cormier started to slow down. And then before you knew it, it was night-night. Taking any shots from the guys that size, it's not going to take you long before you're in trouble.
And that's always been the big issue that a lot of people have had with Daniel Cormier. I think that he's always been in that sort of middle ground, in my opinion, where I think he's too big for 205 because he looks so drained when he fought down there. But when he goes up to, 245 pounds he's fighting Stipe at, and he's just going to get outmuscled by somebody so much bigger. If there was like a cruiserweight division, it's like 225, I think that would have been perfect for him.
I thought Stipe looked absolutely cooked last week as well. In terms of his weight, he looked like he'd lost some weight from the first fight. So he just took a year off. There's no such thing as ring rust. He looked calm, composed. In round 4, he kind of totally changed his kind of atmosphere in terms of the fight and started landing big body shots, as my colleagues already said. So that really, really impressed me, the way he was able to take that fight and kind of change the direction of it in terms of his round 4 body shots.
Do you think he approached the first Stipe fight a bit complacent, if I can get the words out here? Was he complacent when he fought DC the first time, do you think?
Yes and no. I think in terms of DC, it's just come off the back of obviously the John Jones in terms of that fight. So I think it was a bit of complacency. Like the gentleman's already said, he had a couple of defences under his belt. So I think when you're fighting that kind of level, in terms of that kind of weight, he just got caught with a decent shot and that was just lights out. So I think with heavyweight particularly, could he have seen that shot coming? Potentially, but I think in terms of motivation, obviously he's just literally, at that point his wife was pregnant, so obviously had his children now as well. I think Stipe went into this fight totally motivated in a totally different mindset than the first one.
And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what both DC and Stipe do in their futures. I mean, DC's teased the idea of retirement. I think personally he should do. As for Stipe though, Ngannou? Second Ngannou fight?
Wow, I mean, I think the first time they fought, the whole UFC, or the people at the top, were obviously right behind Ngannou and really wanted him to get the win. Ngannou has just looked absolutely ridiculous in the cage. I mean, he literally lands one punch and the fight's over, and he's not doing it against your mid-range people. He's beating the people at the top end of the division, and he's beating them with ease. But then it's the same thing with him. The thing with him is, once you get past that first round, he starts to struggle. And with Miocic's movement and the way he beat him in the first fight, it was just unbelievable to watch after what Ngannou did to everybody else. I don't see how you can't give Ngannou the title shot after what he did. I think his last 2 fights were right with Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos. obviously 2 former UFC champions. How can you not, after beating them so convincingly within minutes, how can you not give him another title fight? He definitely deserves it.
And I think we're going to see him much more complacent in Ngannou. I think part of the reason why 220 ended up the way it did was I think Ngannou was riding on all that hype. He just beat No 3 with that big high level knockout. And I think he thought, I just need to touch this guy and he's going down. So I think we're going to see much more impatient Ngannou in that fight. I think it's going to be very compelling to watch. And personally, right now, I would say Stipe wins between the two, but that's for another pay-per-view further down the road. The other big story, and obviously we talked about one brand new champion to the UFC. We've also got another one that happened yesterday. Weili Zhang is our first Chinese UFC champion and did it in very dominant fashion.
It was ridiculous. I mean, that division has just seemed to have been turned on its head. Because obviously for a long time we had Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She was literally beating everybody and no one could come close to her. We all see what happened when she fought Rose. It was nice to see her lose because of the way she was towards Rose in the build-up. I mean, I didn't like that personally, but that's just me. And then Rose did what she did, and then she beat her again. And then, of course, I thought Rose was going to beat Andrade, and then she got caught with that slam. I think that was a bit lucky, personally, but she did, and she got the title. But watching what Zhang did to Andrade yesterday, I mean, I honestly thought that Zhang was going to win. I did. We do a pick-em game, and I'd gone for Zhang to win. I didn't think she'd win like that and that quickly. I mean, to do it within under a minute in any title fight is it's ridiculous, and it was so impressive. But like we've said before we got air, it's going to be huge for UFC in China now. It's interestingly, obviously, it's the first ever Asian champion. I was looking through the champions at the moment, and I think if I got it right, I worked out that for the first time in UFC history, they've actually got a champion from every continent in the world apart from the Antarctica. You've got the African, you've got the Australian, you've got South America, North America, obviously Europe with Khabib, and now you're adding in
fantastic for the sport, isn't it? To have that kind of variation on the globe is fantastic for the sport. It's only going to grow it, like I said, in China in terms of that one.
And I don't think Weili is an anomaly either. I think if you look at some of the Chinese fighters who are in the UFC right now, you look at people like Song Yadong, bantamweight, Yang Xiaonan, who I rate quite highly as well, and she's 10-1. Li Jinglei, he got a good win yesterday over Zaleski dos Santos. It's a really fast-growing nation.
Lee's been in the UFC for such a long time, and I feel like he's overlooked.
Yeah.
He tends to fight that mid-range guys, but he always does well, and he's a finisher as well. I mean, his fight yesterday was so good. He was on his way to winning anyway. He was going to get the decision, but to get the finish the way he did, with so little time left as well. But he's looked good for a long time. He's been in the UFC for a hell of a long time now. I think this is something like 10 UFC fights, and I think it's hard to know him because they don't seem to have given him that push. But now that they're looking to branch out into China, now they've got the first Chinese champion. I think obviously whenever they're obviously going to try and do more cards over there. They want to get more revenue from that part of the world. She's obviously going to be headlining it, and rightly so. But he's right behind. He's going to be your perfect co-main event, really.
I'm curious to see who Weili's first opponent's going to be because you have so many options. Obviously, Joanna's going to be fighting Michelle Waterson. There's all indications that she could be getting another shot if that happens. Rose is apparently in training for a match in December, so she could be back in the mix. Tatiana Suarez, we can't forget her. She's been on an absolute tear.
She's a beast. I mean, another one that's come through the Ultimate Fighter. It just shows how good, we'll talk about it before, how good the Ultimate Fighter is. The amount of quality coming through from that show. And I know Dana White said he's going to be bringing that show back, so I can't wait to see that show get brought back. I've missed watching it this year, really.
Has it been announced who the coaches are on that one?
No, he's just said he's kept it back.
Quite close, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they start alternating between the Contender Series and Ultimate Fighter. 1 year they do Contender Series, another year they do Tough, so it keeps both formats fresh.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think he loves Contender Series. I think he talks about that all the time. He loves doing the Contender Series. That's going to be a fix every summer now. It's just whether, because he's always done in the past, they've always done 2 Ultimate Fighters a year.
Yeah.
So it's whether they'll do one and maybe that as well. I don't think he'll alternate, because I think for now, Contender Series is doing really, really well as a standalone thing. That's going to be every year. I think he'll do the Ultimate Fighter away from the summer so it doesn't clash at the same time as that.
It's actually quite quiet this year on the fight because normally there's number 2. We've got sometimes they've done like a Latin America version as well, or an Australia version. Obviously, Robert Whittaker, a lot of the talent he came out of that as well.
So the last one they did was what was it, the women's featherweight season? Maybe Chasson won that?
Yeah, and they said, didn't they, that was going to be the last one. And then there was nothing planned after that, but he's come out recently, he's going to do it again.
Yeah, definitely. I think you should absolutely 100%. Like I said, the level of talent has not stopped, does it, to be fair? So
Brilliant.
So we'll be turning our attention to the card itself, UFC 242. Now this is going to be our first pay-per-view in Abu Dhabi since UFC 112. Now if you remember that card, that was the infamous Anderson Silva Damian Maia fight, inverted commas. So bearing that in mind, I think he also did, I think Roy Nelson versus Big Nog was in Abu Dhabi as well. But there's a big need to put on a show for such a prominent money-making market for the UFC, in my opinion. And I think they've got a card which it's going to appeal to the locals, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the Anderson Maia fight, of course, that Anderson was going through a very strange period there where he seemed to have lost motivation for whoever he was fighting because he was beating them like easy. Because he had the fight with Maia and he had the fight with Leites, which he kind of didn't turn up and he just glided through and won decisions easily against both of them. If I remember rightly well, at UFC 112, if I've got this right, was when Matt Hughes fought Enzo Gracie. And that was obviously a bit of a nostalgic fight for your hardcore fans because obviously Gracie's what started, or Hughes had been a long running welterweight champion, and Hughes had obviously he won that by knockout. But yeah, I mean, on paper it's got a great main event. Obviously, you've got there's a lot of Russian/European fighters on the card. There's a UK guy making his UFC debut. We'll see how he gets on. But yeah, it's a good card. It's hard to know how they're going to take to it over there because there's never really been a big influx of fighters from that part of the world. We obviously know it's quite a rich part of the world, but I don't know what their interest or what their interest.
I think it's to try and capitalise on the Dagestani influence on the sport. We've seen a lot of fighters coming from that region, and we can see that when we look at the prelims itself. A lot of fighters are either teammates of Khabib or from that same sort of region.
Sambo heavy, isn't it?
Very Sambo heavy.
Absolutely, but good fighters also.
Are there any big names that stand out for you on the prelims?
Just overlooking it now. Obviously, Zabora Tukhugov, of course, he made the news over the whole McGregor and Khabib incident, and he's fighting against the UK guy. So I'm very interested to see how Ron Murphy does, because Ron Murphy's looked very, very good in the UK and has been very dominant. But it's such a big step up from the UK to the UFC, and obviously he's not taken an easy fight, but I know he wouldn't do easy fights anyway, because that's not just the way he is. And I think the latest fight as well, which has obviously been moved up now and he's going to be headlining the prelims, Joanne Calder and Andrea Lee. Calder was coming off a very strange fight because she thought she was winning and she was showboating, and of course, when they read out the decision, she was completely miffed by the decision.
I personally scored that fight for Joanne.
At the time watching that, I remember thinking that she hadn't won the fight, hadn't done enough, and I was surprised she was confident that she had. But that's going to be a big fight for her, and obviously Andrea's doing really well, and you almost feel with that division as well, with it being a new division, anyone who can put 3 wins together, and Andrea, I think I looked at her on, I think she won her last 3. You're literally 2-3 fights off from fighting for a title because it's such a new shallow division at the moment.
I think it's very interesting the way that the UFC is sort of treating women's flyweight, and it's very similar to what they were doing with men's flyweight when Mighty Mouse was champion, where I think people are desperately looking for somebody to at least pose a threat to Shevchenko. And I mean, there are girls out there that maybe can't be considered. Obviously, you've got Tukasian, Jennifer Maia, Andrea Lee, Viviane Arayo, who has been just basically blitzing people. I think more should be done to try and get people behind these sort of contenders. Because I remember when he said, oh, Shevchenko's going to be fighting Karl, everyone was just like, I'm not fussed, we know what's going to be happening here. So if you promote these girls, put them on a big stage and say, hey, maybe this girl does have enough to beat Shevchenko, that's going to get people more invested in the division.
It's really hard, isn't it? I think they're trying by bringing these divisions in. I mean, again, you know, at one time we was never going to have any women in the UFC, and of course the whole Ronda Rousey and what she was achieving outside of the UFC, he changed his mind. And without that, we wouldn't even be talking about these kind of fights. And it's so hard because these divisions aren't deep. I mean, you're talking of a roster of what, maybe 10, 15, 20, where you look at, say, like, for example, the UFC middleweight roster, you've probably got close to 100 fighters. So it's very hard to push and get behind and build these people up because they haven't got the level of competition to face. That's what makes it tricky.
And what you don't want to do is you don't want to chuck someone in who isn't going to be ready for that Shevchenko fight for the big thing. And obviously that knocks them back in terms of the
and that's what I feel they're going to do with Ravayu, because they've matched her against Jessica Ryan at 245. Expectations are she's going to win that fight, and if they put her against Shevchenko next, that could end very badly for her, for Viviane, I should say.
But then these people that are there, like Viviani, who's there working as hard as she can to get this fight, that's what she wants. That's what she's worked her whole life for. And whether people outside are going to feel she's ready or not, if that's offered to her, she's got to take it. And if she does go out there and she loses, it doesn't mean it's over. It just means she needs to go back and work back up again. And there's no reason why she can't. But we have seen in the past people who have fought for a title on more than one occasion, if they've not been successful the first time, especially in a division that is as shallow as what it is. I mean, working your way up to the top of the lightweight and getting knocked back and working your way back is going to be harder because it's such a deep division. But a division that, like women's flyweight, I think it's very, very possible.
And that's one of the things I've always preferred MMA over boxing, because I think with boxing, one loss and your career's done for.
Yeah.
With MMA, you can get a lot of opportunities to work your way back up. I mean, how many fights did Anthony Smith have? Did he something like 12, 13 losses in a row, and then he's fighting John Jones for a title?
Henry Cejudo, we talked about him earlier, getting Van knocked out by obviously Demetrius Johnson, comes back, beats him, look at it now, he unifies the division in terms of that one. Look how successful he's been from getting Van knocked out in the first round of the title fight, so you're absolutely right. In terms of padded records in boxing in less than MMA, so I totally agree with that statement, 100%.
So we'll move on to fight number 1 on the card, and we're moving to one of these stacked divisions in the UFC. It's the lightweight division, and we have got one of those Russian fighters who was fighting in our opener. It is Mairbek Taisumov, who's taking on Diego Ferreira. Bookmakers have Taisumov as a -270 favourite for this one. You can get Ferreira at +210. This could be a potential fight of the night. Both of these guys have knockout power, good all-round games, but they're also somewhat inactive fighters. Don't fight all that often. Ferreira especially is sort of making up for lost time. He's taking a lot of fights in quick succession. We'll start first and foremost though with Taisumov. 27-5 record, I should say. Last fight was a win over Desmond Green. Now there's a lot of people who may be casual to the sport thinking, who's Mairbek Taisumov, why should I care about him? If you ask people who follow the Russian MMA scene and people who watch all those European cards, they say this is a guy to look out for in the lightweight division.
I mean, he's been under the radar for a long time, and he is winning, and he's winning impressively. I mean, I think he's picked up quite a few UFC bonuses as well for finishes. Am I right in saying there's an issue with him fighting in America?
Yeah, speed
which is not helping him, because obviously that's where the majority of the money is going to come from your big cards in Vegas and New York. That hasn't happened. That's definitely held him back. I mean, I look at this fight and I'm straight away thinking this is another showcase fight for Taisumov. Every time he fights, he looks good. Every time, and he's finishing people as well, which in this division is a big thing.
The thing that really stands out for me when it comes to Taisumov, obviously I think he works in these inside kicks, that's one of his big tools, but I think the amount of power he's able to generate going backwards, I think there was a fight against, it might have been Alan Patrick, where Patrick was coming in on him, caught him in a uppercut, and that just completely changed the flow of the fight, and then finished with a head kick straight after. So that's one of his big strengths for me, fighting going backwards.
He's been compared to in terms of that, he's been compared to a more powerful Eddie Alvarez, obviously precise striking, not as wild in terms of his boxing stance, mixing his nice low kicks. I mean, he's definitely got power. He's in a 6-fight win streak, 5 by knockout, so he's definitely got all the tools he needs to finish Diego if he wants to do it, absolutely. In terms of that one, like you said, it's the activity, and like in terms of my colleague said, it's what he needs to do is he needs to stick the next level up, but that's obviously in America, isn't it, in terms of the big fights, in terms of where we need to get him on. But it's an intriguing fight as well, because Diego, I know we've talked a lot about the first fight, Diego equally is extremely good as well, isn't he? His record speaks for itself in terms of it, and he's seemed to have put together a really good 4-fight win streak, but he's quite fresh, well, he won 4 in February, so in terms of that one, so.
And that fight in February, that was against Rustam Khabilov, and that for me was a very good win, because you look at Khabilov's record, I think he's only had 3 or 4 losses in his career, and there was a time when people were saying this guy is going to be what Khabib has become now. He was going to be that big Russian hawk, he was going to be dominating people. So for me, that was a good win for Ferreira.
Yeah, I mean, Khabilov's first couple of fights in the UFC, I think one of them, if I remember rightly, was against one of the guys from Tough. He lost to Benson Henderson, but he fought against a guy who come from Tough, and he suplexed him, I think 3 or 4 times, and knocked him out with a suplex, which was quite something to see. So it's not often you see people get knocked out by suplexes. And he goes to the UFC now, and mine's not blank. He was on the same season James Vick was on. I'll come back to him a bit. But yeah, he suplexed him a couple of times and dropped him on his head and got the knockout. But again, Khabilov's another one who's been around and has had lots of good wins. He hasn't always got the best style, which I think is what's held him back a little bit. But again, a win over Kablov is definitely a worthwhile win. So that's going to give Diego confidence as well, with it being another Russian, Russian style, sambo style fighter. He's going to feel quite confident going into that fight because of his experience of fighting Kablov in the past.
In terms of Ferreira's wins, we look at people like Kyle Nelson, Jared Gordon. He's recently become known for knocking people out, but I think his bread and butter for me is his jiu-jitsu. He's got a very sneaky ground game, in my opinion.
I mean, if you look at his only losses at Poirier is at the very top of the division, and Dariush as well. So in terms of that one, he's extremely durable as well. Like you said, he's known for knocking people out, but he's got a very, in terms of positional awareness, in terms of ring, in terms of where he is, especially when he's back, or when he's using his ground game. In terms of that, he's a Jiu-Jitsu black belt for a reason, I think, absolutely. So in terms of his submissions as well, he's got quite a few of his 15 wins have come by submission, I think, as well. He seems to alternate between the two, more knockout related, but a lot of his early wins came from submission, like I said.
Where do we stand in this one then? Because obviously I think most people are saying it's going to be Tysonov, and personally I would go towards Tysonov. What would you say are Mybek's weaknesses as a fighter, do you think?
I mean, honestly,
5 losses, so they must have come...
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for him is inactivity. I really do. I mean, he's not fighting as often as he should be fighting for whatever reason, and that's holding him back. I mean, if he was fighting 3-4 times a year and he's on the street, where would he be now? And I do think that's got to be playing on his mind a little bit. Style-wise, I think he's going to want to keep the fight standing. That's what's been his bread and butter. You talk about mixing in kicks. If you're fighting someone looking for the takedown, is it good to throw kicks? Because you're on one leg. That's you see a lot of people get taken down when they're throwing the kicks. So if he doesn't want to be taken down to the ground, that's something that needs to be thought of. But you could say if he's fighting a striker big grappler, say for example, a grappler only needs to get 3 takedowns, one in each round. He's won the decision. So he's got to make sure he doesn't get caught. I would say if he's going to lose this fight, it's going to be from being put on his back. I don't know if he'll get submitted, but I could easily see him being grinded out for 3 rounds. That's, for me, is what he's got to watch.
Especially with it only being a 3-round fight, all it takes is the first 2 rounds to go the grappler's way, and then all of a sudden you go to the 3rd round, it's literally you need to knock him out or something, and then all the pressure's on you in terms of that one, and the other guy has less pressure in terms of that, so he's absolutely right. It all depends in terms of the first round is going to be a big one in this fight to see which kind of way, how it's going to go, who can kind of change the style going in the 2nd round if it doesn't go their way.
I've got a feeling it's not going to leave the 1st round. I've got a feeling we're going to have something very big happen there. I'm going to say Tyson in the 1st round knockout.
I'm leaning towards Tyson as well. Whether he gets a knockout or whether he just is able to keep the fight on the feet and pick him apart. It's so hard, as you get higher up, it's so hard sometimes to see where these finishes are going to come. Because obviously when you're fighting guys that are lower down the card, you do get a lot of finishes. But when you get guys that are both towards the top end division, you get, especially submissions, it's harder and harder to get submissions, I think. Guys know what they're looking out for. I think Tassimov to win. If we're going to go for I'll say a stoppage as well, but I think maybe a bit later, maybe in round 2 for Tassimov.
And yourself?
I would say, I'm going to say Tassimov. I'm going to say, I'll do something different. I'm going to say round 3, TKO.
So we've covered all of our bases there. Each of us have got one on the round, so one of us is going to be right. So watch Diego Ferreira win that fight then.
Yeah, probably by submission in the 1st round.
I wouldn't put past him, but I think Diego's very underrated.
So do I, absolutely.
So we move on to fight number 2, and we've got the heavyweights in action here. It is the number 4 seed Curtis Razor Blades, one of my all-time favourite nicknames, and he's taking on Shamil Abdurakhimov. I had to practice that one in the mirror countless times to try and get that one right. Bookmakers have this as one-way traffic. Curtis Blades is a -350 favourite, with Abdurakhimov at +270. Now, we sort of touched on it there with Tysonov, that we thought this fight was a showcase fight for him against Diego Ferreira. Do you think it's the same thing with Curtis Blades?
I like to look at who people have fought previously. And if you look at who Blades has fought, to who, I'm going to call him Shamil, I'll let you you look at who Blades has fought, to who Shamil has fought. Blades has literally beat some real top-end guys. I mean, straight away, you listed them here. Mark Cope and Lance Rover and jump out to mind. And I mean, he put over him away, which is impressive. I mean, he beat him over 3 rounds, which again is impressive. This is at a time when Hunt was knocking people out as well. Obviously, after that, I don't think Hunt picked him as a win after that. But at that time, we fought Blades, he was beating some good people.
He was number 5 seed, wasn't he?
Oh, he was. But I mean, Hunt is is brutal at what he does. So for me, Blades is a. There's obviously everyone always says there's levels to this sport. You've got you look at some fights, for example, when Cormier's first title defense against Derek Lewis, Cormier was leagues above Derek Lewis, and for me, I think Curtis Blades is another league above Shamil. I'll be very surprised. I don't see this going the distance, and I don't see any way that Shamil can win this. Curtis is so good at what he does.
I think the amazing thing to think about when it comes to Curtis is he's only had 13 fights, or 14 fights I should say. He's 28 years old, so he's one of the younger heavyweights on the roster. And yet he seems so composed for somebody who is at such a high level at this point in his career. I think obviously when it comes to Curtis Blades in terms of his big strengths, you can't look past his wrestling. I think this is probably one of the best wrestlers in the heavyweight division in my opinion.
Second on it, you do see, I absolutely agree. If you look at his collegiate days in terms of he went undefeated as a pro in amateur in terms of his collegiate wrestling. So no, I think he's got multiple ways to win. I think he could easily grind him out in terms of wrestling, but I think he's also got, in terms of having finished over him, not many people do that, do you know what I mean? The brutal finish elbows in terms of that one. He is, the only thing I think might hurt him is when he is a notoriously slow starter, but that doesn't stop him finishing people, because obviously, and he had a really good victory against Hunt. He was rocked, which shows composure at such a young age to come back from that. And he was hurt by Overeem, but again, went back to finish Overeem. So I think, even though he's younger in terms of heavyweight, he's shown a lot of maturity and composure to come back from them early setbacks to get the victory, so I agree.
I think the big issue when it comes to Curtis Blades, it's not so much him as a fighter, which I think is the big problem. I think, his stand-up could do with some refining here and there. The issue with Curtis Blades is the perception, because here we have a guy who's very wrestling heavy, and I think there's a lot of people out there that don't really want to fight him because you don't gain anything from beating Curtis Blades, but there's a big chance of him beating you and doing so in a very fan-friendly way. Potential
dangerous fight, potential banana skin from top tier heavyweights in terms of that one.
Yeah, any time you face a wrestler, it's horrible because you make one mistake, you're on your back. You don't even need to make a mistake, you're on your back. And it's not always that easy to get back up, especially later on in the fight when you're getting tired. What impressed me most with Blade was the finish over him, because it's seen a lot of the time where he had to just grind people out. And that's only going to get you so far, unfortunately, because fans do like to see finishes, and that's what makes you magical, which is why you then get the bigger fights and the bigger money. But what he did to Overeem was really, really impressive. If he can do that again, that's going to keep him building up. And obviously, he had that loss to Nagano, but then everyone at the minute who's fighting, apart from
Stephen,
is losing to Nagano. I know Lewis had the win over Nagano, but that was a very odd fight. But yeah, so I don't think lost did him any harm, as in with where he's at, because I don't think losing to Francis does, because of how good Francis has been. But Blades is on the way. Blades for me is climbing up the division, where Shamil is going in a different direction in my view.
I think one of the issues that Curtis Blades is going to face though is if Ngannou becomes champion, because he's already lost to him twice. It's going to be a hard sell to do a third fight when he lost so convincingly the second time around. He's going to be looking at winning 6 or 7 fights in a row to try and get back up there. So he's in a bit of a bind here. I think he needs to start being a bit more fan-friendly, maybe going for the finish a bit more. If he wants to try and get that sort of fan interest to say, hey, I do want to see this guy fight Ngannou in the future. Because I think, and I don't think it's not as if Curtis Blades doesn't want to finish fights. I think he does. He showed that against Overeem that he can. I think that he has limitations sort of more in the sort of the jiu-jitsu side of things. I mean, Justin Willis in his last fight was giving up arms left, right and centre. And Blades never thought, hey, I'm going to get this, I'm going to try and get him in an arm bar or go for a rear naked choke. And in that regard, he was content to hold it down, but it's not a John Fitch situation.
No.
He's not taking pride in grinding people out.
I think Blades is coming off of, I'm pretty sure Overeem was his last, was his last fight, have I got that right?
Justin Willis.
Justin Willis, okay, so he needs to build up more of the Overeem finish. I mean, that was an impressive finish, and you're right, he does need to be more exciting, and he does need to make it so people want to see him fight. If he can go on a 5-6 win streak, and not just win, I always say to people, it's not about winning, it's how you win.
Yes.
So if he can win impressively, then people will always want to see him fight. And whether Francis is champion or not, because obviously he's got to get to a Stipe yet, and going on that first fight, I don't see how he does that with Gatlano, so that's for another show. But whoever it's going to be that he's going to fight, if it's Francis, for example, the way Francis has been anyway, there's not many people that have even come close to getting out the first couple of minutes with Francis. So he'll be in the same boat as every other heavyweight in the division.
So we'll move on to his opponent, which is, we're just going to call him Shamil, just to play it safe here. 20-4 record. Now, when you look at Shamil on paper, you think, hey, this guy's maybe worth keeping an eye on. Number 10 seed, he's won his past 2 fights in a row, including Andrei Arlovski. But then you actually look at the guy himself. I mean, he's a solid striker. I mean, he's a decent level kickboxer. It sort of reminds me a bit of Blagoy Ivanov, maybe a bit more forward pressure than what Blagoy has. For me, you mentioned it before, it's a levels fight. And I just don't see Shamil ever getting to that stage where he's in the top 5 and he's maybe sniffing around the title shot. He's just not that kind of fighter. He's good, but he's not great.
He's 37 as well, which in terms of heavyweight division, it's going to, like you mentioned, Curtis Blade's 28, he's got room to grow. I know heavyweight's notorious for fighting that a little bit longer than everyone else, but at 37, 20-4, where if he loses this fight, where has he got to go in terms of that one? And even if he wins, let's just say that he does win, he is going to need another 5 or 6 fights at that level in terms of increasing level 4. He even gets in the realm of the title shot, isn't he? So for him, it's a difficult ask for him in terms of doing that. He's one of the biggest men as well. He's one of the biggest men in the division as well, which DC and obviously TBI showed that in days past previously he always had to be the biggest, but that's not the case now. They're getting fitter, they're getting stronger in terms of that. I mean, he has got some good cardio in terms of that one, especially for a big size heavyweight, but I can't see him winning this fight on at all. I'm firmly in Curtis Blade's game on this one.
The stat that jumped out to me that I like here, that you've got that he is a solid technical kickboxer. If you're a solid technical kickboxer, the worst style matchup for you is a solid wrestler. And that, I mean, you're better off being a boxer than fighting a wrestler, because your feet are planted and you keep your grip. But when you're trying to throw kicks, even leg kicks, which we know how deadly leg kicks can be, your legs off the ground, you get that caught, you're on your backside, and again, you only need to take it down 3 times in a round, 3 times in a fight. And in most cases, if the guy's active and is moving and improving position, which most of them do, you're not going to step back up, you're going to lose.
That being said though, with Abdurakhimov, I was very impressed with the way he performed against Marcin Tybura. I think a lot of people went in there thinking Tybura was going to be the favourite for this boy. And he pieced him apart. I mean, he was so fast. Tybura had that sort of big overhand to finish the fight early. And he was content to jab, dip in and out, and then eventually those shots just accumulated, and Tybura was out on his feet by the second. I think it was a very good performance.
Again, it just comes back to me to the wrestler. I mean, it is just going to be so hard to stop those takedowns.
Yes.
Curtis is so good at what he does.
It styles make fights, isn't it? A classic wrestler versus grappler or kickboxer in this case.
And I don't think Shamil has that sort of one-punch power that's going to cause Curtis problems early on, in the same way that Mark Hunt or an Overeem did.
Mm-hmm. Make him respect him enough not to die in terms of the takedown. Yeah. Earn his respect early.
Yeah, I'm all behind Curtis. I mean, the odds are they're quite big in the odds as well, the difference, and I can see why. This is a stepping stone fight for Curtis Blades, in my opinion. It's against a tough opponent with a good record. I mean, the Russian fighters are notoriously tough anyway. That's what their style is. So this is a good test for the younger, up and coming Curtis Blades. That's how I see this fight.
Do you think this is simply a case of this fight's happening because nobody wants to fight Curtis?
I don't know. I don't think you get that. Nobody wants to fight as much now. I don't think in the UFC. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean we've seen Curtis when we've seen Curtis lose. So we like you said, we know he can be beaten because it's happened before. He is a horrible fight because he's not got the name behind him, but because of how dangerous he is wrestling, it's going to be a difficult fight for you if you can't stop those takedowns. I don't imagine if you're in the UFC and you get offered a fight that there's too many you can turn down before you're being sent packing. So especially there's probably loads of heavyweights who would love the opportunity to fight in the UFC and will fight whoever they're shown just to be in the UFC, even if it is a Curtis Blades. I'm sure there's people out there that happily take the fight.
I mean, when you look at his rankings, he's ranked 4, so he's ranked very high in the division. So I mean, there's a bit of a jam in terms of the top. I mean, you've got your Francis, we all know where he's going. We've got obviously Stipe, DC, Cain Velasquez in terms of that. Obviously, Cain Velasquez notoriously injury prone. I don't know what's happening with him at the moment.
I think Cain's going into pro wrestling.
He is, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
He's not going to come back.
There's not a lot of kind of wiggle room in terms of where you would put Curtis Blades at the minute, isn't there? There's a lot of logjam in terms of the top division. Because you're not going to put Francis in with him. I've already spoke about that. So it's like, it's where do you put him in terms of, it'd be interesting to see, obviously, if he wins this fight and he wins it impressively via knockout, where would you see his next fight? That to me is the intriguing question. Where would you put him next?
I would give him the winner of JDS versus Volkov.
I was thinking JDS himself.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't faced JDS yet. And JDS is that, he's like the gatekeeper. If you've got to be worthy of fighting top, you've got to beat the JDS.
Yeah.
So JDS has been,
and it's a big name as well.
Oh, huge, yeah. I mean, JDS is a legend of mixed martial arts, and particularly, with the UFC, he's been doing it right from when his very first fight, he was brought in to lose on a short notice fight to the Doom and ended up knocking him out. That says it all really, he's not looked back since.
So are we all in the same boat, Curtis Blades?
I think Curtis Blades by domination, I think, to be fair, on this one, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know about the knockout, I'm not entirely sure about that, judging by his last performance.
I'm going to say the same.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet, to be fair.
I'm going to go out and put my neck on the line. I'm going to say a stoppage. I think he'll wear him down and he'll get a stoppage. I'll again later on, I'll go for the second round. I can see him doing enough damage on the ground to get it stopped.
And did we get any sort of funny Curtis Blades meme from the post-fight interview after the Justin Willis big titty go home?
I'm sure there'll be something.
So we move on to fight number 3, and we're going back to the lightweight division. We've actually got 4 lightweight fights on the main card, which is a sign of just how stacked that division is. This one could be fantastic. We've got Islam Makhachev, who is taking on Darby Ramos. Makhachev finally making it into the top 15 in this division. Bookmakers have this as minus 285 for the Russian fighter. You can get Darby Ramos at plus 225. Now, normally when they do these sort of style matchups, usually it's the striker versus the wrestler. Can the wrestler take him down before that big punch? This time we're seeing wrestling versus jiu-jitsu. And I think that's a really good sort of twist on the formula, as it were. You don't see those kind of matchups here, and I think it's going to make this fight a lot more interesting than people may think it is on paper.
Yeah, it's high up the card for a reason. Obviously, the location of the show, they're pushing the Russian stroke Dagestan fighter. So Islam kind of falls into that category. I mean, he's another one that's looked really, really good. Every time he fights, he looks good. You just waiting to have that showcase fight against the showcase name. I mean, he's beat some. I mean, his last fight against Leeson Tabao, one time Leeson Tabao, of course, was one of the top tier guys in the UFC. He's been around for a long time now, so towards the back end.
And a lot of people still think that Tabao beat Khabib. That's always one of the big sort of accusations against Khabib. Oh, how can he beat the greatest when he struggled to beat Tabao?
Yeah, Tabao was good though. I mean, Tabao has been underrated. To be in the UFC for as long as he's been in the UFC for. I mean, you're going on years he's been in the UFC. You don't stay around that long if you can't hang with people, and he has obviously shown that you can. Yeah, I think obviously Ramos has got the the history with the grappling. I think he's had quite a lot of submissions recently. He's won a few bonuses, but you look at the people he's faced in the UFC, and I'm looking at the names you put down here, and not one name comes out and says, "God, that was a good win. That was a name." And I don't think that's disrespectful to these guys. The biggest name out of the 3 is Nick Hine, and that's not a bad name, but he's not none of those 3 are a top tier.
I think Nick Hine's like a sitcom star in Germany. No, I've actually seen them in the sitcom. It's sort of like the pretty boy, like with a funeral home together, and it's strange watching German comedy. I'll put it that way.
So whenever they have a card over in Germany, obviously he's always one of the guys on the card for obvious reasons. He brings in the local support, probably why they'll be on TV over there. But
I do think with Makhachev, we'll have to talk about some of his recent fights, and the one that's going to stick out for me is his last fight against Arman Sarukian. Now, there's a lot of people who, when they think, oh, it's just a wrestling matchup, they're just going to think, they're just grinding each other down, it's slow, it's boring. That, for me, is one of the best showcases of wrestling that you can watch in MMA, in my opinion, because these guys are switching positions, they're countering each other's takedown attempts. It's a fantastic showcase, and Makhachev comes out across fantastically. Starukian, who was on his short notice debut, he raises his stock big time. Why do you think people are so uninterested in the wrestling side of the sport? Because I mean, especially when it comes to the flyweights, which are very wrestling heavy, they almost get crapped on all the time for it.
I think technically it's a sport, especially in terms of UK, because obviously it's a big American sport, it's not in America, but it's people not appreciate the finer details of it in terms of how physically exhausting it is to have someone laid on you for 15, perhaps 25 minutes in terms of that one. But in terms of watching wrestling, in terms of like one of my favourite ever was catch and catch wrestlers, Josh Barnett in terms of that one, but you can make wrestling exciting as well.
Yes.
In terms of that, it's absolutely possible to watch someone be on the ground for 30 out of 15 minutes and make that an exciting fight in terms of that one.
I mean, look at Tim Elliott.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
I think the biggest problem with it, and why people struggle to watch it, is if you're watching two guys on the ground, unless you have got a little bit of knowledge of what they're doing, you don't know what you're watching, and that's where people struggle. Like if you're watching two guys standing and they're punching each other, pretty much everyone understands what's going on. He's just hit him, he's just hit him, that's straightforward. But when you're watching on the ground and you're watching people work for something, this is also where the commentator needs to come in and explain what's going on. If you don't know what you're watching, if you can't see somebody is setting up to go for that knee bar or is setting up, they've given that arm because they want to go for that arm. If you don't know what it is you're looking at, you don't understand the transitions. And a lot of the time, if you get in where you've got the ones where they're reverse positions, a lot of that you can see, and that is enjoyable to watch. When you've got a guy who's lined up someone for 3.5 minutes and he's working for something, if you know what he's working for, you will love to watch it. But if you don't know what he's working for, because you don't understand that sort of game, then I think people will find that hard to watch. And I think that's where it's come down. As the sport has gone on, it's got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and a lot more fans are obviously know what they're watching. A lot of some will train themselves, they want to do jiu-jitsu themselves. And you'll see it now where you'll be watching a fight and you'll see somebody reverse a position or defend a submission or something, and the crowd will cheer because they understand what they've just seen. But years ago, people didn't know what they've just seen, and that's the difference. I think it's education on what you're watching. I think that's where the struggle is.
It's getting a lot better though, isn't it, in terms of that one. It absolutely is improving in terms of that. I mean, now you're seeing people who maybe 10, 15 years ago you had to have a good base in wrestling, but even now people are coming through and the first thing they work on when they're just kind of starting out is the wrestling base. They kind of build up from that in terms of that one. Like especially in America, how big the collegiate wrestling scene is in America. But I think of it as almost like a physical chess match in terms of that one. I enjoy seeing how you might go for something in round 1 that doesn't work, but eventually they get the finish in round 3. So it's nice to see that kind of progression in terms of that one. So.
I'm always reminded of what Derek Lewis said. He was asked what his approach to ground fighting was. He said, stand straight back up.
It's a good, you know, when people joke about that, that's a good thing to do. If you don't want to be on the ground, and you get taken down, then I know in gyms what they do is they'll put you on the ground, and your job is to just get back to your feet, and you will train that over and over and over and over again. Because that is the only way you get better at it. I know that in gyms they will put somebody in a rear naked choke. Now, at one time, if you were in a rear naked choke, that was the fight over. Now you see people pulling the arm down and switching their leg around to get out of the choke. They learn that by being put on that in the gym, and they practice it in those. You've got to understand the feeling of being choked and then working your way through it. They didn't do that years ago. But yeah, the technical level now is so much better than what it was. And obviously now as well, people come into the sport, they come in and they train MMA. Yeah. Where before you come into the sport, you were a kickboxer, you were a wrestler, you were a BJJ fighter. It's very, very rare that you did all of them. Then you have the people come through, like Rory Ronaldo, for example, who came through and he was good at everything. And then that's where it is now. People come in now and they're good all-round fighters. They don't specialise in one area. They're good at everything.
That's why Lorenzo Gracie was so fantastically, obviously, dangerous in the 90s, isn't it? People had never seen BJJ before. They didn't have a clue what it was. But no, I absolutely agree. I think you've got to be a well-rounded fighter to make it in the UFC. But I think the most important aspect of all is still wrestling, in my opinion, in terms of that one. The good to get a good base is because you can take the fight where you want the fight to end up, hasn't it? In terms of if you can't get up, like you just said, if you can't get up off your back, then you aren't going to lose that fight.
And the place Darby Ramos is wanting to try and take this fight is to the ground. 10-2 record. Now, you touched on it there. The big issue that Darby Ramos has had, obviously he's got this fantastic grappling background, ADCC grappling champion on multiple occasions. And because of that, I think a lot of the bigger names are a bit scared to fight him. And if you look at people who have taken on that option, you've got people like Chris Grutzmacher, Nick Hyan, John Gunther, who is arguably the slowest fighter you will ever watch. And Ramos just absolutely destroyed him in that matchup. This guy's transitions and this guy's jiu-jitsu is top level.
Gupta was the one that trained with Miocic, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he's very funny. He was a bit mad, wasn't he? He used to do some right crazy stuff. He used to swim under the ice and things, didn't he?
Is that John Gunther in the Tough House?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Was he shaving arms?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
I don't know if that was the
He was
way
the right character, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Obviously what Davi's done outside of the UFC is what stands him out, and he's one of these that comes in and he's a bit like a Damien Murray, he's an expert at what he does. How good is he when you take him out of that comfort zone? Again, he's facing a wrestler now, so if you're Islam then, do you think, right, Davi's really good on the ground, what we're going to do is keep the fight standing. How is he going to be able to get the wrestler down to the floor? You know, how's he going to be when he's on his feet? Is he got good stand up? You know, this is on paper probably Davi's biggest fight in the UFC. When you look at those names he's faced and beat, he's now fighting a 17-1 fighter who is, you know, is it probably his first ranked fight is what I'm thinking?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this is massive for Davi. This is where Davi wants to be. And you're saying about people avoiding him. If he beats Islam, then I think people will be avoiding him. At the moment, I don't feel he's good enough to be avoided because he's not faced anybody that jumps out and says, that was a raw beater. He's not beaten a top tier guy yet.
I think he's got the problem that people like Vincent Luque are having at welterweight, where you've got guys who are on good winning streaks, getting all these dominant wins, and the guys in the sort of lower reaches of the top 15, they think, I'm not going to put my ranking at risk to fight this guy. I'm just going to fight somebody sort of like 11th or 12th and just keep my own little winning streak going just in case.
We've talked a lot about Islam in terms of his wrestling credentials, which is obviously nice, but in terms of if you're Islam, the way to be in terms of Davi is keeping it standing. I mean, in terms of his actual defence when it comes to, he's got like the least strike result per minute in UFC history, that's massive. So if he wants to keep that fight standing, he has got the tools there to avoid any shots that Davi can throw, so that's still massive in my opinion.
My fear when it comes to Islam is he does have a tendency to give up his neck. And we saw that against Nick Lenz. Nick Lenz caught him in a guillotine a couple of times. He wasn't able to get it out there. But someone like Davi Ramos, who is so good at getting these submissions, he has all the possibility in the world to do that.
Nick Lenz isn't bad against submissions either, though. And Nick
Lenz's guillotine is amazing.
Yeah, Nick Lenz has been doing it for a long time at the top end of the sport. I mean, Nick Lenz has been in the UFC, you know, it seems like he's been there forever at lightweight, and I'm sure at featherweight as well. So he's done really, really well, Nick Lenz. So, you know, I look at Nick Lenz, I know what you're saying about Davi, he's also maybe got the better grappling record, but then with Nick's experience in the cage, is Lenz a tougher opponent than Davi? And I would say, yeah, he is. You know, I would look at Davi and say, if Islam could beat Nick, then I'd expect him, you know, I know it's MMA math and it never quite works out the way, it doesn't always work out the way it's supposed to do, but it's a good basis to look at. And I would be looking at Islam thinking, this is a good fight for Islam, because he can use his wrestling to keep the fight on the feet if that's what he wants to do.
And I think the other factor as well with Ramos is, yes, we've seen this guy in top control and what he can do with his grappling there. What if Makhachev gets the first takedown? What's he going to be like if he's back?
And that's the question, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, BJJ guys are notoriously good off their back. We know that. That's what BJJ is as much as it is on the top. The thing is though, as you're getting higher up the food chain, being on your back in MMA is not good because one, if you're on your back, then the judges are you losing the fight. So if you're not getting a submission, you could like you're on your way to losing by decision. The other thing as well is, of course, in the grappling there's no striking. There's that famous saying, you're a black belt, get punched once, you're now a brown belt, get punched again. And, you know, as daft as it sounds, you try putting on the tribal choke when someone punching you in the face, it's different from putting on the tribal choke when you're in a pure grappling environment.
And you've got a gi on and you've got
and if you're in the gym training with your teammates, they're not punching in the face full force, so you're not getting that experience.
Fight experience,
yeah. So if Davi's on his back with Islam in his guard, Islam's working to pass that guard and he's throwing punches at the same time, or he's throwing elbows at the same time, that changes absolutely everything. So you do not want to be on your back, no matter how good you are. There's the odd exception. I mean, Ryan Hall's a freak of nature. We talked about him earlier on. He has proven to be a freak of nature. There's very, very few that can do what he does to that level. That it's very, very rare, and especially as you get higher up. It'd be interesting to see, going off topic a little bit, how Ryan Hall does as he gets higher up the food chain, how he does against the top tier guys.
He's another one of those high risk, low reward fights.
Yeah, it's horrendous to fight because he's just got this awkward style where he literally will sit on the floor. What do you do when someone wants to just sit on the floor? You know,
He's the kind of person to take 1 or 2 shots to get that hook in and he makes sure he gets it in, doesn't he? So he's a very difficult fighter to make. In terms of his stand-ups, not overly impressive, but he's got such, one top of well-rounded fighters. His level on the ground in terms of his heel hook is so far above anyone else's in terms of that, so he's a difficult fighter.
He can throw stupid things, because it doesn't matter if he gets caught or taken down.
Yeah.
Where most fighters don't want to throw anything stupid because they don't want to get caught on their back. Ryan Hall, if you ask him to line his back, he's quite happy with that.
And if you try fighting him at distance, he's going to hit you with a spinning kick, like
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
We've been trying to build this fight so like the submission expert versus the wrestler, who's going to come out on top. Didn't we say the same things about Jacare versus Chris Weidman, and that turned into a stand-up brawl?
Yeah. There's been loads like that where you get two ground fighters end up striking, and you get 2 strikers that end up.
And they'll fight each other's styles, don't they? So it comes down to like who has the best stand-up by inches.
I remember Damien Meyer outstriking Colby Covington.
It's crazy, isn't it? That's MMA for you, that's why we look at it.
Yeah.
You can look at it and you can sit here like we're doing, you can break it down as best you can. But until those 2 guys or 2 girls go in the cage, you don't actually know what's going to happen.
Just because A beats B doesn't mean it's A beats C.
Not at all.
Which way are we going with this one then, lads?
I'll be very, very surprised if this fight does not go the distance. I don't see how this fight's going to end, as in with a finish, because I think both of them are very, very durable. And I think Makhachev has got the ability to keep the fight where he wants to keep it. I can see him. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up on top and he's just kind of nullifying Davi and beating him on the ground, but not enough to get a stoppage because Davi's constantly moving. I see Islam winning by a decision.
I see the same, but I see it slightly more playing over the feet in terms of maybe 1 or 2 takedowns, maybe ruin the fight, but I see most of it taking place on the feet. But I think Islam for a decision as well.
I'm going to cover my bases. I think Islam by decision, but if there's a finish, it's coming from Ramos.
If you had to pick one or the other, which would you go?
I would go Islam. But I mean, don't sleep on Davi Ramos. This is not as one-sided as the book makes it out to be.
They are quite big odds, aren't they?
They are. I'm surprised by those odds. Although the bookmakers are always a bit surprising, I think, when it comes to mixed martial arts, because the one that always sticks in my mind recently was when they made Aspen Ladd the favourite against Jermaine. I was just thinking, you are losing your money if you're putting Aspen Ladd to win this fight.
That weight cut.
Yeah, that was awful.
The thing is, why Ramos odds as what they are is because of the level of competition he's faced.
Yes.
Because you look at Islam, and he's faced some good guys. Where you look at Davi and the level he's faced is not quite where Islam at, and again it's who he's beat rather than anything else. I think that's why Islam's got the odds.
This is UFC, you can only fight,
you can only fight
absolutely. But like we said before, there is levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy, lads. We've got our core main event coming up here, and we have got a rematch on the cards. Edson Barboza, the number 7 seed, is taking on Paul Irish Dragonfelder, which, considering that Paul Felder is Philadelphia born and bred, it's a bit of a strange nickname I've always found. But I do rate Paul Felder, and we'll get into him in a lot more detail. Now, the first fight between these two took place in 2015. It was actually Paul Felder's first loss in MMA competition. So there's going to be that little bit of extra incentive. The biggest selling point though, this could be a banger. The first fight was classic. Both guys are known for their knockout power.
I'm a massive Edson Barboza fan because I think even a bad Edson Barboza fight is still better than most people's good fights. I mean, I watched him, I honestly can't remember, you might be helping me, I can't remember the gentleman's guy who finished pretty much 3 leg kicks in one of his first fights in the UFC. He's massively entertaining. In terms of who his last fight just engaging, another absolutely amazing, really entertaining fighter. Again, obviously watched him coach on Tough, did he coach Justin Gantz?
Yes, they was in him versus Eddie Alvarez.
Obviously some of his highlight knockouts, it's Harry Hatton, is going to go down as one of the best knockouts of UFC history in terms of that one. So regardless of whether he wins this fight, I think it's going to be an entertaining fight. It's something one I'm looking forward to. I can see why we placed it as a core main event because it's perfectly situated in the card for me.
They're 2 fan-friendly fighters. I mean, Barboza, like you said, every fight Barboza is exciting. I mean, his fight with Dan Hooker, I mean, by God, that fight.
My legs were hurting watching that.
But I mean, Dan Hooker, I mean, gee whiz, he showed some height in that fight. But it wasn't like he wasn't in it. He was in it to win it. I mean, he was giving it back as well. But how can you not like Paul Felder? I mean, I like Paul Felder anyway. He's always been entertaining to watch. But then when you watch him working, obviously on the shows, commentating, it makes you like him even more because he's clearly very, very knowledgeable and knows his stuff. And he comes across as being a very likeable person. Again, this is one of those fights where I don't really want either of them to lose. I know one of them's got to lose, of course. And I'm pretty sure as well, I read this earlier, I'm sure, they win fight of the night for that last fight.
Yes, he did.
So it's going to be another candidate for the fight of the night. Because both of them are known for coming forward, both of them are known for their striking. Obviously, Barboza's probably at the minute, it's fair to say, probably the best kicker in the UFC. I think that's a fair comment to make. Based on what we've seen, I think his leg kicks. I think he's got 2 or 3 finishes by leg kicks. I'm pretty sure he's the only guy in the history of the UFC who's got that amount of finishes by leg kicks. Which I mean, that says something, really. That's crazy. But yeah, it's a fight where I think it's one of those fights you just sit back, watch, and enjoy, and you don't really care who wins because they're both so good. That's how I feel about it anyway.
We'll dissect Barboza first and foremost. Now, Edson Barboza, as mentioned before, fantastically entertaining fighter. You can see why the UFC puts him so high up the card. But that being said, he has lost 3 of his past 4. The Hooker fight was his only win in his past 4 fights. Are we starting to see, maybe not so much Father Time catching up to Barboza, but people knowing how to beat him?
Yeah, I think he's in terms of division where he's situated. I think he is that. We talked about JDS. He is starting to me to become a bit of a gatekeeper in terms of the lightweight division, where you are going to put the young and hungry guys up against him to see how they fare. Because I think he has struggled notoriously with the top tier in terms of competition. He has notoriously struggled against the top guys in the division. So I do think he is at a point in the division where he's definitely top 10, no word of a question. But I think he's maybe the lower top 10 in terms of the higher top 10 in my opinion. But no, I think it'll be an interesting. I mean, you look at Paul Fielder in terms of that one. I know we talk about the heavyweights, but he's 34, and in terms of he's been around a long time as well. So it'd be interesting to see if he does win against Edson, where would that put him in the division? But if I had to pick in terms of an early pick, I would definitely pick Edson. I've got to go for Edson on this one. But obviously, I don't care who wins. I'm the same as well because I think they're both fantastic. But Edson for the win for me in terms of that one.
I think with what you're saying about Barboza and losses, the only reason I'd go against that is because of the people he's lost to. I mean, we're talking about the top people, and even when he's lost, he's not lost because he's been completely overrun. He's lost because he's been in an exciting fight and he's got caught, and I think he's probably been finished. I know he wasn't. I'm pretty sure he was against Gaethje.
I think he survived against Khabib, but that was like a morning. That was a typical Khabib performance.
You never take anything away from that because that's Khabib and he does that to everybody.
There was Kevin Lee, and that was when Kevin Lee was really on the roll. I know he sort of got off the boil a little bit, and then the Gaethje fight where he had his moments against Gaethje.
Yeah. Was he fought Cerrone?
He got beaten against Cerrone.
He got beaten against Cerrone,
didn't he?
Yes, Cerrone submitted him.
See, Barboza's a showcase fighter now, so every time he has a fight, it's a big fight because of his style. I mean, I can't remember the last time he wasn't on the main card when he fights, because he's brilliant to watch. He's fan friendly because he literally is constantly attacking. The only thing you'd say against him is if you pressure him back, that's when you can maybe get the odds over him. Fowler's going to do that. Fowler's going to pressure him back. It's just whether you look when you get fights played back. It's very hard to see how they're going to be any different from the first time. It's not always the case, but sometimes it is the case where they're not. And if you look at their first fight, and think what is Fowler going to do differently this time so he's not in the same position? For me, Fowler's still the same fighter he was then. He hasn't gone from being a great striker to now he's a great wrestler. He's still going to come and stand and strike, and he's going to have to worry about those bloody leg kicks.
I think the Felder that fought in 2015 was maybe a bit raw. I do think he is the same fighter. I do think Felder was maybe a bit too gung-ho for his own good, and I think we started to see him sort of rein that in a little bit. I think the Trinaldo fight where he got stopped, maybe it's just a sign to say, hey, I need to ease up here. And he's riding into this fight with a lot of confidence as well. I mean, the James Vick win, everyone sort of like takes the nick out of James Vick now, sort of sees him as a bit of a caricature. That was an impressive win when that happened. I mean, James Vick was in a good run of form.
I was going to say, he's got a good record, James Vick, hasn't he, to be fair.
James Vick's a strange one because he's a very tall lightweight, but he fights with his head up.
Yes.
And we've seen him now where he obviously got knocked out by Gaethje, got knocked out by Fowler. And again, he doesn't want to come through on Ultimate Fighter. But even Ultimate Fighter, the fight he won, he wasn't expected to win that fight. and some guy shot him for a takedown, Darren Cruikshank, and he threw a kick and caught him with a knee and got the spectacular finish. Victor's always been a strange fighter because I don't think Vic is that great. He's got a name behind him because of being on all the fight out. He's very, very tall, but I don't feel like he's a great win for people now because he's definitely he's definitely set up there to be knocked out by people. I feel Vic and Gaethje and Felder were perfect opponents to knock out James Vick.
Bit of a lightweight screw.
Yeah, I think. Not the way Struve used to be, the way Struve went on to become.
The fight that really won me over though when it came to Paul Felder. Yes, he's had this winning streak going on. The fight that won me over was when he fought Mike Perry. I mean, the guy broke his hand in that fight, took it on like 2 weeks' notice in a new weight class, and he took Mike Perry, who was one of the most entertaining fighters, to a split decision. And now it's fighter maybe sit up and say, hey, he's turned the corner here.
Yeah, I mean, that was a difficult one because he was at a higher weight class as well. I mean, Fowler's had some really good fights. So I'm going back a bit further when he had the fight with Ross Pearson. And again, at the time, Ross Pearson was a top 15 guy in the lower division, obviously a UK guy who had done really, really well in the UFC. And they had a very, very close fight, and it could have gone either way, and Pearson won by decision, but that really could have gone to either of them. Fowler is very, very exciting to watch. I mean, this fight is going to be probably one of the. Obviously, the main event is very anticipated because of who it is, but outside of that, it's clear why it's in the co-main event. I mean, they're both such exciting fighters.
The biggest concern I have with Paul Felder in terms of his fighting style, if Felder finds something that works for him early on, he'll go back to that well over and over and over. If he connects with like a spinning back fist, he'll try landing it again and again, and it gets predictable. Do you feel that Barboza's going to capitalise on something like that?
A guy like Barboza, in terms of his strike credentials, that could be extremely dangerous for him, actually. Especially if you said there spinning the back kick. We know Edson Barboza is absolutely brilliant with his kicks as well, especially spins. In terms of that, he's got his own spinning repertoire as well. I think that could be incredibly dangerous for that one. Especially if Barboza's particularly fresh as well. Obviously, being a 3-round fight in the early rounds.
For me, I think the difference will be the leg kicks again. Barboza just breaks people down with leg kicks. I think if Felder stays in that range, he'll get kicked to pieces. Felder needs to get in and box him, and maybe get close to where he can dirty box him, and not give him the distance to throw the kick. Like I said about the spinning. If you've got someone who's going to spin, you need to be right up in their face where they can't spin. That's as simple as that. Same, if you're right up someone, they can't throw a leg kick. You make it a boxing fight, a bit like what Randy Couture used to do. You used to get up against the cage, go around the back of the head, boom, break away, come back in again. Felder needs to basically stay out of the kicking range. That's the difference in this fight is if Barboza keeps at kicking range, Barboza wins. If Felder can get out of the kicking range and turn it into a boxing fight and a dirty boxing fight, then I think that's his best chance of winning.
Even if you can grab a couple of takedowns against Edson as well, because Edson's takedown defence is okay, but it's not fantastic. So even if you can grab a couple of early takedowns, take the pressure off that way, score points in terms of that one with the judges, and that's absolutely huge, isn't it?
Judging time, lads, which way are we going?
I'm going Edson Barboza, second round knockout.
I'm going to go Barboza as well. I'm just not sure whether it's going to be by stoppage or another. I think I'm going to go for another exciting decision.
I'm going to change it up. I think I'm going to go for Paul Felder, not because I think Paul Felder is a better fighter than Barboza, but the way to beat Barboza, that path has been tread on, and I think people know how to do it, and I think that Felder has the tools to cause Barboza problems. So even though I think Barboza is a better fighter between the two, I'm going to go with Paul Felder. Paul Felder by decision.
It's going to be a really good
fight. Let's hope so. Although people said the same thing about Lewis versus Ngannou, and we also what happened there. That was sort of like a guaranteed, do not miss this fight, and it was
mental. There's some fights you watch and you think, I don't know how this fight can be boring. And then that happens. It was just unbelievable.
It's actually funny to watch and rewatch, just simply for how angry Joe Rogan gets.
It's shocking because everyone was excited for that fight. I mean, it was like a truck being in a tank. I mean, he was going to win out the truck in a tank, and then they didn't even turn the engine on. It was unbelievable to watch. There's no way you'd have predicted that was going to be like that.
No.
And in the end, the guy who won was the guy who just did that a little bit. Yeah, that a little bit more. That was literally it. It was not what you'd expect at all.
So we move on to our main event, and the lightweight title is on the line. Khabib Nurmagomedov is making the second defence of his belt, and he's taking on the interim champion, Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Bookmakers have this one way. Khabib is a -380 favourite. You can get Dustin Poirier at +290. We're going to start first and foremost with Khabib, and I think the only place we can start is UFC 229, where he fought a certain Irish whiskey salesman.
Do you know what? That was the one fight where I actually watched that fight and wanted them both to lose. I've never really been a big fan of Khabib, it's just me. I'm not a big fan of his style, but I really don't like Conor McGregor. I get me wrong, I admire him as a fighter, I think he's a fantastic fighter. I don't like what he does outside of the cage. I don't like that side of the sport. One of the things that I've always loved about mixed martial arts is the respect side. You can watch two guys or two girls go in the cage and literally beat the living out of each other for 15 minutes, 25 minutes, and afterwards they hug each other, they shake hands. I love that personally. Yeah. So the build-up with him is always bad. So it was almost like I wanted Khabib to win because I like him least than what I like Conor. So I was glad he won for that reason, especially glad to see him get the finish as well, just because McGregor's just got, McGregor just makes more people for it, to be honest.
For me, I thought I was going to. I thought anyone who knows, it's a little bit like Conor McGregor, any self-respecting boxing fan thought Conor McGregor no one was going to fight Mayweather. It was always going to go one way. And it went exactly the way in the previous fight with Khabib and Conor that I thought I was going to do. In terms of that one, it was the second you got Conor down, it was always going to be a maul in terms of that one. So I wasn't surprised that Conor lost that fight. In fairness for Khabib, in terms of persona, I'm not the biggest fan of Khabib, but I do like I'm the opposite. I like his style in terms of I like how he breaks people down and how he does that. I think it's very impressive, especially with some of the things that he's done in terms of the record and that. And I know we talked a little about the records on anything, but 27-0, he's that for a reason. I mean, since he's come in the UFC, apart from maybe Glenn's TV fight, I've never really seen anyone put up any in terms of defence. I mean, Sambo's absolutely, he is the tree. Reminds me a little bit of Fedor in terms of obviously bringing that kind of exposure to Sambo back in the day, but it's just going to be a really good fight. But it's one of the best cards, one of the best fights on the card this year, in my opinion, especially with Dustin's form.
I think when it comes to Khabib in terms of his fighting style, yes, he is a grappler, but it's the persistence of his grappling that I think takes a lot of people by surprise. If he goes in for a takedown and he fails, he jumps on you straight away when you're not ready for it. And it's that sort of forward pressure that I think gets to a lot of people. And once he does get a hold of you, I mean, most people go into a Khabib fight, I think Conor was the same, and just thought, this guy's just a wrestler. All I just need to do is just defend the takedowns. And you could see when Conor was actually down on the ground, he's thinking, hang on a minute, this is more than just a wrestler.
It's a forward pressure, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of his, I mean, I know we touched on his wrestling in terms of his sambo, but he's a very underrated striker. I know obviously his Dustin Poirier is the better striker of the two, that's obviously evident, but Khabib doesn't take a lot of shots. When you see he's a very underrated striker, and I think people are a little bit scared to kind of trade with him because they're too busy, they're already mentally thinking I don't want to get a takedown, so they don't want to give him legs, they don't want to do things like that, so you've got to be very precise and you've got to be disciplined with him in terms of that one if you go into beat Khabib.
And if you're so paranoid about defending the takedown, you leave yourself open for a big overhand.
Yeah.
He's the only man to drop Conor McGregor.
Yeah. And Conor doesn't have a reach in, not at all.
I definitely agree with what you just said there about the striking. I don't necessarily think that he's a great striker, but I think you're that wary of being taken down by him, it affects your striking. So therefore, you don't want to throw anything because you don't want to leave yourself open for the counter, which won't be a counter punch or a counter kick, it will be a counter grab and being dragged to the floor. And that's what makes him dangerous on the feet because you're worried about being taken down.
In terms of Khabib's, we'll go back to the striking side of it because I think the striking side of it is also a big factor in Khabib's success because for a wrestler, I don't think he shoots all that much. The way he closes the distance, if you notice, he'll throw like a big Superman punch and that's his way of sort of closing the distance, gets you against the fence and he just takes you down there. So it's not like a traditional sort of wrestler who just shoots him for double legs. It's a very unique style.
He's just very, very good at what he does. He's very good at just grabbing hold of you and pulling you down to the ground. And no matter how he does it, it doesn't like you say, it doesn't look clean, it doesn't look pretty, it doesn't look attractive, but he gets you down, and once he's on top of you, it's very, very hard. It's very, very rare some people are able to get back to their feet. This is what makes this fight interesting, because Dustin's actually somebody who's quite good for fighting on the ground. Conor never was really good for fighting on the ground. Dustin is, and he's dangerous off of his back, but he's also capable of getting back up to his feet. He's also capable of throwing ridiculous strikes from ridiculous angles, which is also going to make this fight interesting. Because if Khabib does come in close for a takedown, you've got to be careful of elbows, you've got to be careful of a jump knee, you've got to be careful of being clinched and dirty boxed. I think the close-in strike of Poirier, which is like a jump knee or an elbow, I can see that being quite a crucial part. And they always say if someone tries to take down on you, you need to make them pay for it, you need to punish them for it. I think the example was Travis Brown versus obviously Josh Barnett, where he threw multiple elbows. If you can make somebody pay for a missed takedown, just like when you throw a punch and then you're then worried throwing that punch you don't get caught with a takedown, you make them pay for that missed takedown, they're then going to be worried about coming for a takedown as well.
And what we've started seeing recently is we're seeing a lot more strikers getting wary of wrestlers going for takedowns, because part of Masvidal versus Askren was countering the takedown with the flying knee, and Adam Boric did the same thing with Aaron Pico and Bellator. Do we think Dustin is capable of pulling that kind of stunt?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a guy who went 5 rounds with Max Holloway, and he didn't just go 5 rounds with Max Holloway, he went 5 rounds and he beat Max Holloway. And I know the fight was close, but I don't think anyone sitting there after that fight saying that was a bad decision. It wasn't. It was a fantastic fight, and it was by far two of the best pound-for-pound fights in the world. If you can beat Max Holloway at Max Holloway's game, then I think you can do it.
Max Holloway's got some of the best footwork in the division, and Dustin Poirier moved around with him in terms of that one.
And it's not just Max Holloway either, it's Pettis, Gagey, Eddie Alvarez.
It's amazing.
Since he's gone back up to lightweight, he's just been on an absolute tear, so he's 100%. Again, I remember Dustin Poirier in terms of he used to be WC, he used to be on appeal on a little show on MTV called Caged. He did that as a cameo appearance. Wow. But no, he was, because I'm trying to think, where's he from originally? Is he from like New Orleans kind of area?
Lafayette.
Yeah, Lafayette, exactly. So he's very, very family friendly. But no, I obviously we've talked about Khabib in terms of, but Dustin Poirier in terms of his persona outside the cage. I absolutely love Dustin Poirier. I think he's fantastic. He's really fan friendly. So I like him in the cage. He's very exciting. I like him outside as well. And if I could pick someone I'd want to win, it would be I'd love to see Dustin Poirier pull out winning. I'd absolutely love it.
Isn't it Justin as well in his last fight who donated some of his equipment to go somewhere to raise money? Was it for the Max Holloway fight?
I think it was, yes.
Didn't he? There was something that he gave up so Max could auction it off to raise money for, wasn't there? I mean, you're right. He's just outside of the cage. He's just the kind of person you want to market because he's such a respectful person, and he clearly cares about people outside of what he does as well. And then inside the cage, he's an absolute.
I mean, this is one of the good things I've been looking at this fight. All the build-up, there's been no bad blood. We spoke about Conor before. He's actually respectful. That's it. It's nice to see in terms of that, because sometimes the bad blood kind of overrules it in terms of what we're here for. It's a sport, isn't it? Someone's got to lose. So it's nice to see that kind of nice build fight rather than all the bad blood in the press for bad reasons.
The big question when it comes to Dustin Poirier, and it's the big question that comes with all of Khabib's fights, how good is his takedown defense? Because I think the only real sort of guy who relied on his wrestling in this big winning streak was Eddie Alvarez. And in my opinion, when Eddie took Dustin down, Eddie had the upper hand. Dustin was struggling to handle those elbows.
I don't think there's anybody out there, wrestling-wise, who Poirier is going to face that's going to be like Khabib, because Khabib's wrestling has just proved to be so dominant. I'm like you. I mean, you asked me who's going to win this fight, and if you ask me to answer in my head, I'll give you one answer. With my heart, I'll give you another answer, because
I think we're all in the same boat.
I think even if you get taken down by one round with Khabib, that exhausted physically after that one round, like you say, it's not just. He's not going to do it just on finish. He is going to make you hurt for 5 solid minutes. So even if you go into a second round, your arms are gassed, you're absolutely physically exhausted, and that gives him the upper hand. But if that happens in the first round, you're already in a way losing the rest of the rounds because you're so exhausted in terms of that. So then you're thinking, right, I don't want to get taken down. Obviously, plays into his hands in terms of that one. But there's no one that Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier's fought, beg your pardon, that's going to be in Khabib's level. No.
The thing that would point me towards Poirier, that gives him. If I'm going to think, how is he going to win? If Khabib's going to win, right, realistically, he's going to win by decision. I think that's fair to say. Based on what we've seen in the past, Khabib doesn't finish many high-level opponents. He finished McGregor, but we question where his level's at with the grappling and stuff. Poirier is a person who can finish a fight at any time. He's that kind of fighter. He's finished some top people, and he's also gone distance and won decision as well. So every time this fight's on the feet, Poirier is capable of finishing the fight. He's obviously got to stop the takedown. So every time the round starts, Poirier's got a chance. The longer that fight goes on, hopefully it is going to get tired, but Khabib's going to get tired as well. It's going to go both ways. So every time it's on the feet, you think, can he do it? Can he do it? Can he do it? That's where the key is. If he can be on the feet count, then if he's going to win, he's going to need the finish. I don't see him beating Khabib by decision. If he's going to beat Khabib, he's going to be.
I agree. I think if Khabib was win, the only way Khabib knocked him out was by attrition, by constant pressure. Yeah. Third, fourth round, he'd be tired, and he gets something, he just absolutely pours it on him. That's the only way. I can't see Khabib finishing with a one-punch knockout or anything like that, or a submission. It's going to be war of attrition versus Khabib, but Dustin needs. I think the key for Dustin for victory is early rounds.
Yeah.
The first 3 rounds are going to be key. If he can somehow take the first 3 rounds off Khabib, then that puts Khabib in a situation he's never been in. It puts him under pressure.
I think it's going to need to be a 1-round fight for Dustin. In my opinion, he's only got the first round and he's got those first few minutes to try and make something happen. If Khabib gets a hold of him, it's game over. But Dustin is capable of causing problems in those early moments. It's just whether or not he's able to do it.
I think he's got to start of every round. I honestly do. I think he's got to start of every round. Because obviously every round starts on the feet. Once he gets taken down, I struggle to see how he's going to get back up. I hope I'm wrong, but I want to see him get back up. And if he does, I'll be there cheering at the TV like the rest of us. But it's whether he can get back up after being taken down. But for me, at the start of every round, that's when he's going to be the most dangerous. That's when Barboza was the most dangerous against Khabib as well. But I don't think Barboza's anywhere near as the ground as what Poirier is.
Bit of a trivia question here. Now, Dustin Poirier has won 10 of his past 11 fights. Who's the one person he lost to?
Okay, let me have a little think. You know what? I know this, but only because I read up on it earlier on. I thought I can't believe he lost to him.
Michael Johnson.
Yeah, I read it on Wikipedia earlier on. That's mad, isn't it? To think. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Michael Johnson because he's not a bad fighter, but he's certainly not a guy you talk about in the same breath as you talk about Dustin Poirier.
Did he beat 20 players in Michael Johnson? I'm not about things different, isn't it? No.
I think you might be thinking someone else.
I think it's someone else, possibly, no. But no, Michael Johnson in the day was a good fighter, wasn't he? What weight was that? Lightweight or?
That was in lightweight.
So must be when Dustin first walked then.
Yeah.
Because Johnson's a featherweight now, isn't he?
He went down to featherweight, he's come back to lightweight, which I think is a good move for him because he lost all his power to featherweight.
Yeah.
It's a big
weight cut to drain.
I think we've all got a hint of where we think this is going to go. Shall we just make it official, lads?
Yeah, I'm going to go, unfortunately, I'm going to go Khabib with a 4th round knockout.
Do you think he'll get the stoppage?
I think he'll get the stoppage in the later rounds. I hope I'm wrong, and I want, nothing would give me more pleasure to be sitting in front of my telly and get a Dustin Poirier TKO first round, but I don't think so.
I'm going to go for the upset. I'm going to let my heart go. I want Dustin Poirier. I'm going to put my heart on my sleeve. I'm going to say, Poirier pulls it out. I see him rocking him with something and being able to get his back and get a submission. I'll go for a submission from Poirier.
I'm going to say big call. I'm going to say Khabib 3rd round knockout. I think it's going to be ground and pound. I'm with you though. I think that I want Dustin to win, and I think most MMA fans want Dustin to win. My only issue with Dustin winning though, and we discussed this before the show, if Dustin was to become champion, they'll run the Conor fight back.
I don't want to say that. I don't
exactly. I don't personally want to see it, but I can see the UFC doing that because Conor wants the belt back, and the UFC will give him every chance to do so.
I think you've got to work your way up to it, haven't you? Absolutely haven't. We've talked about the lightweight, how stacked is the lightweight division. There's plenty enough good fights for him out there if he wants to do.
And it's good fights for Conor as well away from the title. I mean, I'd like to see him versus Gage or him versus Cowboy. I think those could be great fights.
They were both the fighters were asked who should be next, and they both had the same fighter.
Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, so it's got to be Tony Ferguson. I mean, that guy.
He's
and he's obviously had issues outside of the cage, which is why he had a long way back. He's come back now, and he was at one point the interim champion, if I remember rightly.
Yeah,
he was due to fight Khabib, wasn't he? In the fight, I think on 2 occasions the fight's fallen for him.
4.
Is it 4 occasions?
He looked fantastic against Cerrone.
And he wasn't. The fight looked fantastic.
He doesn't even. He looked breathless. He was just totally. His cardio was absolutely amazing. His technician and I felt bad for that because. He was annoyed for Cerrone because he wanted the fight to continue. He was just as annoyed as everyone else.
Cerrone blew his nose out, didn't he? When he broke his nose, he shouldn't have done that, and that's why he's arguing the way they did. But he knows they shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done that. But it was the right thing to stop that fight. I mean,
Oh, 100%, absolutely.
He was. I mean, I'm sure Cerrone would have carried the fight.
Yeah,
That's Cerrone, but
yeah.
my God, it was hard to watch, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Especially how rapidly it happened as well. But no, Tony Ferguson needs. I mean, Tony Ferguson versus Dustin Poirier. That is a potentially brilliant fight. That's fanboy's dream, isn't it? To be fair.
And Tony versus Khabib as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally, I think the person who's going to beat Khabib is an unpredictable striker and somebody who's very active off his back. Tony Ferguson fits those
both boxes, yeah. And cardio, you need fantastic cardio with Khabib because he's not going to stop him for that takedown, persistent, isn't he?
It's turned into the Joe Rogan experience here, wasn't it? So, our general assessments of the cards then, lads, do we think it's a strong card?
Me personally, I think the top 2 fights are strong. I think the rest of the card is more tailored to the local audience rather than the big American audience. I think the top 2 fights are really, really good. The rest of the card, I think unless something spectacular happens, I think, I don't mean this horribly, but I think quite forgettable the rest of the card personally.
I kind of mirror that in terms of that one. I am slightly, I think they're interesting fights, but not for your average MMA fan. I think you've got to be deep down. I want to see, I think I'd be interested to see the first Blades fight, obviously, in terms of the first fight on the card as well, which we talked a lot about in terms of that one, which is what was the first fight on the card? That one. Yeah. Diego Fia versus Tasimov. I think that's an intriguing fight. So they're the 2. And then obviously I am a massive John Paul fan, like to be fair, further than pushing out like Jojo, she's on the team.
I hope your wife's not listening to this.
She probably will be, to be fair, in trouble when I get home, but no, absolutely. But no, it's I think box office in the UK, I don't think it's as justified as I thought the 239 fight was a stronger card to form the video.
239 was a card which is big enough to justify pay-per-view, but not a 3 o'clock one.
No, definitely not.
I think if you have that kind of card at say 7 o'clock in the evening when you get a few lads around, that makes more sense.
I agree.
But I just think it sort of isolates the MMA audience by putting it behind a paywall.
Yeah, because it doesn't. You want to expose people to it, you don't want to hide it, you want to expose it, absolutely. That's why the BT spot feels fantastic. So that's why I was pleased that it stayed on BT spot this that year rather than moving on.
So that's all the time that we have for the preview show here. You have been watching INC. My name has been Karl and that has been Gareth Kyle.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that has been Ray Thompson.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back again to cover our next pay-per-view, which will be UFC 243, Australia, Marvel Stadium, Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker. So, hope you enjoyed that one. Bye-bye for now.
Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond.